catch Sam every afternoon at 1 right here on KXNT. The show is What's Right, and it's an absolutely great show from 1 to 3 on KXNT. The best afternoon show in the Valley, so you've got to catch it. 1 to 3, What's Right with Sam right here on KXNT. And, of course, Sam is joining us right now here on Vegas at 8. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Alan, good to be with you. I've got my coffee. We're talking. All is right in the world.
Well, it is until we get going with some of these topics here, and that's going to be heavy duty. So let's get going with our first issue, and that is that the Hamas terrorists have been firing rockets at Israel, and they do so from behind civilians. Civilians are shields. They fire from behind civilians. Israel fires from in front of civilians. But they fire from occupied schools and everything. And every once in a while, an innocent is killed. And then, of course, Rashida Tlaib goes apoplectic, and she's nuts. And she goes, "Oh, my God, an innocent civilian was killed in Gaza." But you have another way of looking at this whole thing from somewhat of a legal perspective.
Okay, well, there's two things at play, right? Because every Israel bombing is framed in the media under the context of what happened on October 7th. And I'm not here to diminish what happened on October 7th. My point here is that there is an ongoing assault on Israel. There are rockets fired, thousands of rockets being fired from Gaza into Israel. So Israel is retaliating. And here's, I'm a lawyer, so I look at these things legally. Every time there is a target that's hit and there are civilian casualties, the BBC and the Hamas sympathizing media gets out and goes, "Oh my gosh, how could this be?" Look, there's something that every jurisdiction in the U.S., to my knowledge, has called the felony murder rule. If I'm a security guard working in a bank robber comes in, brandishes a weapon, maybe fires, maybe doesn't, and I try in the defense of my person or others to hit him and to neutralize him. And I, in the process, as that security guard, I return fire and I kill an innocent bystander. Under the felony murder rule, the bank robber is charged with first-degree murder.
Makes sense.
That's how it is. And so I don't understand how these Hamas terrorists firing rockets, or whatever terrorists are in there firing rockets from kindergartens. Okay, I saw there was a guy literally staked down outside a kindergarten. If kindergartners die, trust me, it's horrendous. War is horrendous. But whose fault is that? It's on the terrorists. It's on the terrorists. And every single person and every government person within Gaza that gives that terrorist cover. And frankly, that's another part of the discussion. There are fair many of them. So nobody's saying this. I mean, it is on them. And I'm losing my mind like you over this. And Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar and AOC need to shut the F up.
Well, and Rashida Tlaib already came out yesterday and tripled down on her assertion that Israel, quote-unquote, bombed the hospital. Number one, no hospital was bombed. It was a parking lot. Number two, Al Jazeera had video that evening within hours showing that the rocket was blasted from near a cemetery in Gaza and then came down into that parking lot near the hospital. And by the way, about 50 people or fewer were killed, not 500 immediately. But our American media, as well as BBC, you can look at the New York Times, you can look at the AP, you can look at the Washington Post. They immediately all came out with the Hamas claim. So Hamas has some kind of an equal sense of credibility that Israel or anyone else has. It's like all of a sudden they've been elevated to some kind of a world government. It's absolutely maddening. And I agree with you 100%. But it's just funny to me how nobody disagrees with the fact that a felon here who brandishes a weapon, gets shot at, and an innocent bystander is killed, he goes to jail for murder. We're nonplussed about that. That's established law. But all of a sudden, every innocent life that is lost is Israel's fault. And I'll add this. My dad was born in 1941. He's 82 years old now.
And he remembers at 4 years old, Allied bombing of Prague, when the Allies, the U.S., the Brits were coming in hot and getting rid of the Nazis in occupied Czechoslovakia. He remembers it. All right, it was enormous civilian casualties. My family almost got wiped out. Nobody was sitting around going, man, those Brits, those Americans, man, proportionality,
I'm sorry,
proportionality.
Yeah.
Nobody, you think my parents or anybody that I know that is Czech that left that going, damn those British allies for bombing us. I mean,
no, they wanted the Nazi
they wanted the
Nazis to be blown
out.
back to hell. Yeah,
they wanted them bombed back to hell, and they dealt with it, and it was horrid. And that's something that that story is. Like, I grew up, was raised by a man who lived that, who saw it first person. So don't give me any of this, people come at me that I'm some, white guy living in Las Vegas. I have no idea about what's going on. Look, people do not understand history. And I'll tell you, and that's the problem with these libs. They want to reorganize history, redefine history. Rashida Tlaib and her man of very merry Hamas-supporting Democrats, they all, the one thing they have in common is reality denialism, and it permeates every bit of her political thinking, philosophies, and agenda, and it's gross.
All right, Trent, we're going to take, a break early, and we're going to come on back. Because I want to give more time to this next issue, which is this homeless camping ban. We've got a couple of cities who are actually want to go to the Supreme Court to rule on homeless camping bans, and some people think that that's a violation of people's rights to not let them camp wherever they want. Other people are saying, wait a minute, we've got to deal with this problem. It's a huge issue. I think it's one of the biggest issues we have here in Clark County, and I have for a long time. So I want to come back and talk about the legal aspect of this with Sam from Sam and Ash. We're going to continue on Vegas at 8 next, right here on KXNT. Annie, good morning. Great to have you with us on this Tuesday morning. It is Sam and Ash Tuesday. We have Sam with us. I want to remind you, most important is catch Sam this afternoon at 1 on What's Right here on KXNT. And, of course, you want to contact Sam and Ash, 820-1234, 820-1234. They're local, so that's a local number. I don't have to even give the area code. You understand, 820-1234. I want to talk about this briefly. Las Vegas and Henderson are hoping to go to the Supreme Court to rule on a homeless camping ban. The ban is that as long as there is not space to house these people, that they have a right to be able to camp almost anywhere they want. And this whole article that we both have talked about how certain people they're homeless, they're camping out there, and some people want to be out there. Some of these people admit that they have mental health problems, which I've been saying for years, which is the base of this. And give us the crux of what this is about and where this could go when it goes to the Supreme Court.
Well, the cities have, our cities here have signed on to an existing U.S. Supreme Court challenge that originally this case started in Idaho and Oregon, and this issue has to be decided once and for all because the homeless advocates, which that's a whole separate issue, have fought tooth and nail and hidden behind lower court decisions, particularly out of the Ninth Circuit. Okay, which they call the Ninth Circus for a reason.
Yep.
That have allowed criminals and drug addicts and mentally ill psychos to camp out on the sidewalk willy-nilly. It's public property. It's not your address, and that's my problem with this. So Alan, you've been to my office. We have a beautiful building downtown Las Vegas. Right in the Arts District. We have some very nice shishi restaurants, great coffee shops. It's a beautiful area. But here and there, we've got one of these lunatics. And these are not people. This is not a housing problem. This is not housing related. This is mental illness and drugs. 90% of what I see out here on the street, you don't have to be an expert in mental health care to know these people are having psychotic episodes. And so this is allowing them to be on sidewalks, by the way, is not humane. It's the entire purpose behind the advocates here on this is to make the problem put the problem out there, use these poor people as window dressing, as props, so that these groups that help them, quote unquote, get more funding. That's it. That's the truth of it. It makes me, Alan, I'm so revolted by this, and I see it day in and day out, and I don't, until you've, I always tell people, until you've cleaned up a human deuce that somebody left you on the side of your building, I don't want to hear from you on this issue at all. Like I'm not interested to hear from somebody who lives in Summerlin behind a gate. This is a real problem downtown. It's a problem here. It's a big problem in LA, in San Francisco. They're ruining these cities, and I hope the Supreme Court comes down with some common sense on this.
Well, and it's hard to say what the Supreme Court will wind up finding eventually, but one of the thoughts that came out of someone who was quoted in the article says, and I just want to mention this, that requiring cities to build and provide shelters to a small segment of their populations at public expense is unworkable and takes money away from other longer-term forms of support for homeless populations. There are more. And by the way, other more effective methods also of dealing with homelessness. So a lot of these people are opposed to effectively dealing with this, feeling that, and I think the ACLU is part of the problem here, and they want to allow the people to be able to do their own thing. But when they do their own thing, they're also infringing on other people, which makes that, to me, a crime, because you're infringing on me now. And I don't think that's right. And if anyone disagrees, think about whether you live in an apartment or a house, you walk outside, and on your own sidewalk, there are people camped out and defecating and everything else.
Yeah.
Think about how you like that idea. How do your kids like that idea?
And here's the thing that really irks me, because there's some guy they quote in the story here, the RJ found some homeless dude who's been homeless for 10 years. And he's like, no, the only reason I get hassled is because I look homeless. If you don't look homeless and you're sitting down on the sidewalk, nobody hassles you. And you know what? Screw this guy. And I'll tell you why. Because it doesn't matter here in San Francisco, LA, wherever. The fact of the matter is that if I, as a non-homeless looking guy, dropped my pants in the middle of the street and started urinating, I would end up on a sex offender list for indecent exposure. Fact. I've got a guy in front of my building here. We've chased him away a few times. He doesn't wear pants. So, I mean, and of course, the cops will say, well, he's homeless. They're kid gloves because of his status. So it's actually the complete other way around. If you or I decide to go take a poop somewhere in front of somebody's building, we'll get arrested. But this guy, no, he gets to do it. He gets to walk around with no pants, with this junk hanging out for everybody to see. And we chase him around and we chase him out of here because there's kids here, and we have customers. And so our corner, by the way, very clean. Our street's very clean. But all of us business owners are very on top of this. And I have to give a shout out to the city marshals, and even Metro. I mean, they fight the fight, but marshals have been very responsive in helping keep downtown clean. So major props to them and to the mayor for prioritizing this.
So quickly, how do you think the Supreme Court would view this? We only have a few seconds. What do you think?
Well, I could see the Supreme Court putting some restrictions on public camping. Yeah, so I could see this being a shift. I lean toward believing that that's going to be something that comes out of this. So I'm watching this case. It could shake things up.
Yeah, I'm going to probably try to get some candidates on for city council and see where they stand on this. I have an idea where some of them stand, but I would like to find out where they all stand on the homeless issue. Many, many years ago, Mayor Oscar Goodman came up with an idea, and he was ridiculed for it, and he was correct. And one of these days, your show's much longer. We had to spend time on your show with longer segments really getting into this, because there's so much that's got to be said about homelessness in Clark County and what needs to be done, what can be done, and what should be done.
Well, why don't we just do it? Let's do it this week. Let's set a time, and let's you and I solve this problem once and for all.
I'll talk to you after the show and we'll work it out. I don't
Done.
mean inviting myself on, but yes, let's do it because it makes sense.
No, I want to do this. And by the way, everyone listening wants to hear this too because we're constantly harangued with the fact that we're not caring and we're not sympathetic and we're heartless. But you know what? I don't want to see some guy, with his butt and junk hanging out and pooping on the sidewalk. Nobody wants to see that. If you say you want to see that, there's something wrong with you.
Those are my breakfast. Vegas and Ace Legal Team, Sam and Ash. Contact them at salmon-law.com or 820-1234. Catch Sam this afternoon at 1 on KXNT. I won't be with him this afternoon, but we will do this for sure this week. I think it's an important issue. I've been talking about it for years. Sam's talking about it with a great sense of passion. We're going to absolutely do it. Sam, thanks for being with us. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you later today.
Beautiful. Thanks, Alan. Take care.
All right.